Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Total Biscuit, and here we are, 2 million subscribers. Took a little while to get there, certainly, as it tends to. Channels tend to slow down in growth unless they have some massively viral set of videos that happens to put them out there to pretty much everybody, but steady growth is healthy. Spiky growth, maybe not so much. The kind of growth that you get explosively has a tendency to also disappear at an equally rapid rate. It's taken us a little over a year to reach this milestone from 1.5 million subscribers, which we hit in January of 2014, just towards the end of that particular month. So really, it's not a bad growth rate, and honestly, I've been really happy with the way the channel's been going up to this point. We've had a very reduced output as a direct result of the cancer treatment, and it's just something that I'm hoping to be able to ramp up slowly. I've done some kind of bad damage to my body trying to actually do this job, which sounds a bit weird. You think, well, it's just a job where you sit down and talk. Well, yes. The problem is using the diaphragm has caused some problems, let me just put it that way. Some things are not where they're supposed to be. So I was going to have one additional surgery anyway to put everything back where it was supposed to be, but now it's going to have to be a little bit more intense because there's things which are just not where they're supposed to be. Let me put it that way. That's all I'm going to say about it. I don't want to really talk any more about it because, of course, it's gross. But regardless, that is the sort of thing that I'm dealing with at the moment. And just coming off the chemo and the time that it takes to get off that, I'm having to be weaned off the pain meds, which is obviously a problem. So I am trying my best to get back to the regular rate of output. I would love to be able to get back to 2 videos a day, 6 days a week. I think that's reasonable. But at the moment, that's not really possible, and I just hope that eventually it will be. Regardless, though, the channel's come a long way from being just a World of Warcraft channel. You know, with it, back in the day, we were just putting out WoW videos, and really the only thing that people were watching is something that was just shared around forums a lot and posted on websites like MMO Champion and all of the WoW fan sites. So when we were putting out videos regularly, that was kind of how we got our promotion, and we got some hits from there, and then we grew, and then we transitioned out of WoW, and we had that period where the views dropped, obviously, because we were doing less, and we were doing less of what the WoW guys wanted, and eventually we managed to transition wholly out to a variety gaming channel, and I'm kind of glad that we were able to do that, because of course, if we'd stuck with World of Warcraft, it would have been tied to many things, including the success of the game and my interest in it, of which I currently do not have any. The formats we use on the channel are designed to be essentially evergreen. They're the sort of things which will continue to get views regardless. Whenever a game goes on sale, someone's going to look it up and find my video about it just to find out what's going on. And as a direct result, we're going to have success. And we have. And we really, really have. And we've seen WTF is get even more popular over time. You know, even videos like LA Cops, a very small game that I only just put out a couple of days ago, that has clocked in 350,000 views. That's a lot. That's a lot more. It used to be the case that I would talk to a games company and I'd say, yeah, WTF is, it'll average about, we get about 100,000 views. Now it's more like 300,000 as a minimum. It's fairly rare to see anything go below that. It is possible on very, very small games, but 250,000 is not now unreasonable to say when we look at any video game, and it's usually higher than that. So that's really awesome, and thank you very much for your support there. Now, coming off of that, I'd like to address a little bit of criticism that's been leveled at the format. Now, it's been leveled by people that, frankly, are pretty disgusting, and the sort of people that I wouldn't want to associate with, but I'd like to address it anyway, because I think that you should always have a right of reply when someone comes and criticizes your format, especially when they then go and insult your audience in the process, which people have taken to doing lately. The last 8 months has been very divisive, certainly, within the gaming community, and it has revealed those that would be moral arbiters within our industry, those that would decide who is and is not ideologically impure and will engage in harassment and bullying if they determine that said person is not, in fact, of the same beliefs as they are, which is very strange because a lot of us share many of the same beliefs. We believe in equality, we believe in gay rights, we believe in transgender rights, we believe in recognizing people as people. At least that's what I thought anyway, but the last 8 months has taught me a great deal about people's ideologies and just how crazy some of them can actually become. Now, to address the criticism of the WTF's format, the idea that this format is base, it's simple, and indeed it is forgettable. Well, yes, it is simple. There's no real doubt about that, but it's also lengthy and detailed, and that's what I really like to do with this show. I like to go in on as many details as humanly possible. And I always find it odd to see people suggest that this channel is aimed at the lowest common denominator. We talk about a great deal of industry issues here, and we create very lengthy videos, the kind of things that would not appeal to the lowest common denominator, those with a lack of patience, those with a lack of time. We can go on for 20 minutes about an options menu. We can go on for 25 about DLC. We can talk about industry practices such as below-the-table deals with YouTubers and ethical concerns. We can talk about games remakes, Nintendo's affiliate program, fraudulent keys. This is the sort of thing that we can talk about on this channel and get more views than pretty much anyone else on those issues. We can do port reports that are nothing but 26 minutes of performance discussion and get almost 500,000 people watching them. So I think, if anything, most of these criticisms are very much addressed by the publicly available numbers that sit on this particular channel, and there are some people that view critique as something that has to be extremely highbrow and has to be socially conscious. It must put games in a social context. It must talk about political issues. Yeah, well, here's the thing. One, most people in this industry are in no way qualified to talk about any of those issues whatsoever. I would love to say that they are, but we're in an industry where people don't even have journalism degrees, much less the kind of academic experience required to make those proper assessments. There is a reason why those particular critiques are confined to the realms of academia, and hopefully put through peer review, which is something that some of these people don't seem to like the idea of, which is a little bit insane as far as I'm concerned. I come from a law background, so when it comes to writing an essay or anything academic whatsoever, which I did for 3 years, every single piece of it must be properly cited and must be presented with evidence. Otherwise, that is an F for you, good sir. When I see these pieces come out which are nothing of the sort, which are completely unsourced, which are nothing but a set of assertions based on often flawed examinations and understandings of ancient theories in sociology, gender studies, and so on and so forth, some of which have been since debunked, then I have to somewhat scratch my head as to whether or not that's really highbrow. And here is the main point. If you want to write that stuff, you are more than welcome to do so. You are not entitled to a giant audience for it, and I think there's an element of jealousy involved in there when they see these critiques that go up on YouTube, either myself or Angry Joe, for instance, who will put out information about the video game and say, this is what we like, this is what we don't like, this is our conclusion. And we keep it as simple as possible, but we go into a great deal of detail, far, far more than any games website would, simply because we happen to have a video format. We don't have to restrict our reviews, our critiques, our first impressions to 1,000 words or less. Ergo, we will naturally have an advantage when it comes to depth and when it comes to the amount of things that we can actually speak about. And here's the thing. The critique that we create is a buyer's guide, and it's a buyer's guide for those of you who don't particularly want to waste your money on a game that isn't worthy of your time. And this is the thing which I think these critics, these wannabe social critics, completely seem to ignore. Living in this sort of academia ivory tower, they miss the point of buyer's guide critique. They don't seem to understand or empathize with your regular working gamer. The kind of person that goes to work, comes home, and wants to play a good video game and doesn't want to spend $60 of hard-earned money on something that's absolute junk. Or in the case of something that's indie, for instance, they don't want to spend $15 to $20 on a game that's been misrepresented as something that it's not. There's nothing wrong with creating a game like Dear Esther, for instance. I personally don't think it's a video game, but if you want to create it, so be it. When you have websites that claim that the game is far more than it is, then we have something of a problem. When we have websites that support games merely due to their particular political affiliation and don't disclose that fact or promote a game that is, of course, developed by a friend or lover indeed, as we have seen in the past, and they do not properly disclose that, then we have a problem, because the kind of people that are buying these games have limited funds. And those are the sort of people that I am catering to. I serve them. I serve the consumer first. That is my job as a critic, to make sure that they spend their money wisely. That's what a tastemaker does. And the reason that I can relate to people, other than, the basic human skill of empathy, is the fact that I've worked those jobs before. I've done the blue-collar stuff. I've worked customer service. I have worked in an office. I've worked in the post office on a night shift and had to tread home at 6 a.m. through the snow in the morning with holes in my shoes. I've done all of that, and then some. And I understand that when you have limited funds, the last thing you want to do is put money down on a game that isn't very good, because games are expensive. Games are $60 each. You compare that to the minimum wage, for instance. You talk about the minimum wage in the UK. When I was working, it was $5.45 an hour. And games were going out for £40 to £50 each. So consider that That's a lot of money to be spent on something which might not actually be very good. And that's the sort of thing that I have the privilege of protecting people from, because I'm in a position where I can get those games prior to launch, and I can tell you whether or not it's actually worthy of your time. And that is all I require. I don't know what it is about some people, but I believe, at least I believe that they believe, that what they're creating is for the good of society. Okay, if you believe that, that's entirely fine. My priority is different. My priority is simply this: make sure that people buy good games. Make sure that developers that make good games make a profit on said games and can make more good games. Make sure the games industry is better on a technical level, because the complete ignorance, more often than not, of game mechanics and technical aspects when it comes to these kind of commentaries make them useless as buyer's guides. And that is why they are confined again to academia. And that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with creating those critiques. I just wish people were better at it. It's very rare that I read a so-called academic critique. It's very, very rare that I read something that purports to be socially important or socially conscious. Very rare that I read that and actually think, yeah, this guy's got a great point, because a lot of it is completely unsourced, and a lot of it really comes down to personal, subjective opinion and often political leaning. And I try to keep that stuff out, if at all possible, of my critiques, because it is not relevant to the buyer's guide style, which really is the most relevant kind of critique to your average consumer. And there is no point in, one, insulting that, and two, insulting the people that consume it. That's the thing which bothers me the most about this, is that some people have the audacity to believe that they can insult 2 million people and get away with it. They think that that's entirely okay. I'm sorry, you don't know these people. If you insult 2 million people, if you tar them with the same brush, you are a bigot. It is really that simple. If we switched it around from people that watch Total Biscuits videos to people that are black, somehow I don't think you'd be able to make that point. And yet you are doing the same thing. You are making a base assumption about a huge diverse group of people based on little more than your own personal prejudice. And that makes you a bigot. And the lack of self-awareness in that is just ridiculous. So as far as I'm concerned, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. You can't argue with numbers. Or you can try, because a lot of these people don't believe in meritocracy. And that's what YouTube is. YouTube is a pure meritocracy. You are paid exactly the amount the market thinks you are worth based on the number of eyeballs you are able to attract. That's how YouTube works. It is pure meritocracy. And you might argue, well, oh, but this guy, I think this guy's bad. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. That is completely subjective. They are paid exactly the amount the market thinks they are worth based on objective metrics. That's how YouTube works. And that's how this channel will continue to work. And that's how we'll continue to operate it, because that's what makes sense. This channel and every YouTube channel exists solely on the basis that we please our audience. And that's who I'm going to continue to please. I hope. At least that's the plan at any rate. So, the last 8 months has been very tiring, frankly. It came around at exactly the wrong time, frankly. I have no doubt that it's affected my health in a big way. It's certainly affected my mental health to the point where I've gone into therapy. But the fact of the matter is that we've come out the other side. The cancer, as far as I'm concerned, is pretty much beaten into the floor. We do need one last CT scan to check if that's the case, but the doctor is very optimistic, and I'm looking forward to getting back to full schedule and providing you all with, hopefully, the videos that you actually want. And I don't care about anybody else. I care about this audience and those that join it. It doesn't matter if I appeal to anybody else. We have the audience the size of a small island nation. That's quite enough for me. I don't need to save the world. I just need to do a good job for the people that are going out to work on a day-to-day basis and don't want to waste their money on crappy games. Yes, it isn't saving the world. I'm not a superhero, I'm just a games critic, and I have no intention of overreaching there. Thank you very much for watching, folks. Your support over the last 5 years has been absolutely essential. And of course, we're looking forward to creating another 5 years worth of hopefully good content for you here on youtube.com/cynicalbrit. My name's been Total Biscuit. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.